Hello everyone, welcome to AgriView, my weekly videocast on topics related to agriculture and food. Every Sunday we will be coming to you and discuss about one of the topics suggested by the audience and would try to demystify it for everyone to understand it and see the broader picture. Aptly, the today's topic for this inaugural session is Modi farm laws. Whether it is for markets, which most of the reforms should be, or is it for the farmers, as the government claim it to be, or is it for the businesses, which most of the critics of the government are saying it is all about. This topic is passionately being discussed across India amongst various stakeholders, from politicians to agriculture experts to economists to farmers, and even at the tea time of a corporation or a public sector department. This topic is also discussed across the globe, from Canada all the way to Australia and various countries in between. While I am not as gifted as these economists and agriculture experts, but I still also have my own experiences working with thousands of farmers across multiple countries and CXOs and mid-level executives of agribusinesses, both small size as well as large corporations across multiple continents. I also have good interactions on agriculture on various think tank and multilateral agencies, including World Economic Forum, United Nations, Horasis, to name a few. We would try to touch upon this subject and dispassionately evaluate what's happening. Let's get optics and politics out of the way before we get into substantial issues which we want to discuss. I believe the way farmers' protest has been handled is not the one a democracy like India would be proud of. In past, we had far bigger protests done very peacefully, which ensured that both the government and the protesting party were able to come to some amicable solution. The brute force which was used by overzealous government to stop these protesting farmers has tarnished the reputation of India as a whole. There was no need to lead these peaceful farmers into the lathi charge, the tear gas shelling, and all those type of things which happen. I also believe that the people who are saying these protests are driven with the political agenda are wrong. While in a democracy like India, definitely opposition parties would like to intervene where they believe the government is not right. That's their constitutional right. At the same time, calling these protesting farmers anti-nationals by some of the individuals who had no relation with agriculture, I believe was a new low. Yes, protesters can definitely be anti-policy, but calling them anti-government and anti-national is far stretching the imagination. So I believe it could have been avoided. Third very critical aspect is that many people are saying that these laws should have been enacted with more consultation, and the post-law protest or disagreement could have been resolved in a better manner. But I believe here that in a country like India, we have seen in past, whether it was 1990s, even Narasimha Rao, 2000, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, or even 2008, Dr. Manmohan Singh, all of them, they have came up with big bang reforms in a very secretive or back office manner, because in a democracy, when you are coming with something so substantially controversial, there would be a lot of people who would try to oppose it. And sometimes when you strongly believe this is good for the nation, you try to get that thing pushed, which we call pushing the envelope. And this is what I believe the Modi government has done. And as I told you in past, this has happened. Nothing wrong, according to me, in doing it for these agriculture reform as well. Now, when it comes to how to handle the protest, I strongly believe the role of central government was limited. It was more of the state governments which were supposed to act. Agriculture being a state subject, the central government doesn't have last mile access the way they have when it is financial reforms, commercial reforms, or trade reforms. Because the central government is strongly associated with last mile activities. Hence, they can set the communication going all the way from top to the last person who would be impacted. Unfortunately, in agriculture, the ground soldiers are from state governments, and I believe they have lacked both imagination as well as passion to deliver the message of value of these bills to the farmers. Also, agriculture, unlike trade, industry, and finance, impact directly 60% of Indian population and indirectly 100% of Indian population. Hence, it was more difficult to set up the right communication. But if we see the overall broad picture, I strongly believe if there is one place where Modi government has been found little lacking is sending the right communication, reaching out to the farmer at the right time, especially when the protest started. The central government could have intervened with a better imagination and more urgency to engage with farmers. I believe on that count, Modi government is a little bit slow to respond. If you can recall, when was the last major reform in agriculture took place? It was in late 1980s. For past 3 decades, we have left agriculture to take a southward dip. While from finance to industry to commerce, we had various phases of reforms. Unfortunately, agriculture was always left. For a very simple reason, definitely you need to be a very, very bold government to take on agriculture reforms. Time and again, both government assigned committees and even private research organizations have been telling that India immediately needs agriculture reform. A country which is having one of the largest number of farmers, largest agriculture land bank, is having farmers who are committing suicides. Our productivity in most of the crops is lower than the world average. We are among those countries which are having amongst highest pre and post harvest losses. We are a country where the per capita income of farmer is among the lowest in the world. Even if you compare it with the per capita income of a normal citizen in India, you'll find that farmers are at the lower end of the state. In such scenario, do we maintain the status quo? Even if we think of maintaining the status quo, we'll be seeing a bigger risk just around the corner than what we are seeing today. With impact of climate change, changing way people are consuming food, challenges of India's food security being dependent on only handful of states. Just think of a scenario. If there is some natural calamity happening in belt of Punjab, Haryana, Western UP and East Northern Rajasthan, would we be able to take care of the food security of the nation? Answer is no, because more than 90% of the food procured by the government comes from this belt only. Commission after commission, it has been put on table that between 6 to 8% of Indian farmers are only getting MSP. Don't we need to think about those remaining 92 to 94% of farmers which are in some state making monthly income of less than 2000 rupees? Indian agriculture needs an immediate reform. I fully agree. This reform might not be perfect. Modi agriculture law might not be the final solution. But as is in the case of most of the law, you need to have a starting point. Even if you incorporate the demands of the farmer, which they have today, once you roll out, you'll have challenges. You'll have to go back to the drawing board. Again, add and subtract something in the law to make it all inclusive. We are having huge amount of disparity between earnings of a farmer in Punjab and earning of a farmer in Bihar. Aren't both Indian farmers? Do we continue the current regime on inefficiency, leading to saturation in the incomes of the farmers of prosperous belt like Punjab and Haryana, while not so prosperous belt of farmers in Chhattisgarh, in Bihar, in Orissa, finding it even difficult to survive? So writing is on the wall. The government had no option but to go for a reform. And that is what they had done. There might be shortcomings. There might be challenges to roll out these laws. But as Indians, we need to sit across the table, see to it what works for all. We cannot be in a situation that vocal minority curbs right of silent majority. We have to think holistically for each and every farmer of India. We have to think for the farmer who is growing not just rice and wheat, but also farmer who is actually growing vegetable, fruits, pulses, not just the 23 commodities which are under MSP, but 400 different commodities which Indian farmers are growing. You have to take care of each and every farmer. That is what this reform is all about. This reform tries to break the inefficient system, shakes it up so that we have more prosperous future. So let us find out what is the biggest challenge of Indian agriculture. Who is the mother of all Indian agricultural problems? That's low farmer income. Otherwise, the rest of the things are perfectly in place. We are having huge agricultural land bank. We are having some of the highest number of farmers globally. Average age of Indian farmers is better than the average age of farmers globally. All of this should give us a picture that Indian agriculture is doing pretty well. But far from that, we are having huge agrarian distress. And one single symptom of that is low farmer income. We need to understand what is the reason for low farmer income. There are various reasons. The top amongst them is the way our value chains work. we are having a legacy inefficient mandi system. The APMC Act and mandi system was created when India was having food deficiency. Our food security was a challenge. In that regime, you are producing less and there was more demand. The whole aim of these mandis was simple: to ensure that sale of farmer produce can be regulated, to ensure farmers get the right value. The minimum support price was created. If you see both MSP and these mandis in today's context, you'll find that there is no incentive or motivation for these APMC controlled mandis to be efficient. Same way, the MSPs actually delivered to only farmers who are growing rice and wheat. Today's environment means that our production of wheat and rice per year is between 10 to 15 million metric tons more than our demand. Even if we see the MSP, it is only delivered in the government procurement in mandis. Other than government, even in these mandis, because of their inefficiency, farmer ends up getting 30, 40, 50% value of MSP. The Food Corporation of India, which is a major buyer for the government from these mandis, they end up having overhead cost of between 70 to 80%. If you add up the losses in the godowns of Food Corporation India, you'll find that the landed price for the government for rice and wheat is 200% of MSP. How do we ensure that these mandis, they become more efficient? There is no reason in current setup for these mandi to be efficient. That is what this current reform does. When you start creating parallel private marketplaces or private mandis, you create a competition for existing APMC controlled mandis. These mandis, they actually generate huge amount of revenues because every sale need to be done through them and they take a certain percentage of that trade. A part of it also goes to the state government. So in current regime, definitely the APMC mandi management as well as the state government, which are controlling indirectly these mandis, would have no reason to deploy new technology, to become more transparent, to create more value for the farmers. Hence, when the current agriculture laws changes the status quo and allows more private marketplace to start flourishing, the existing APMCs will also enhance, improve, and become more transparent. Second, in most of these mandis, there is a specific way of getting the players, which is again controlled by few. When you have private marketplaces, you'll see that more players would have ease of getting into agriculture value chain. It would create more employment for existing farmers who want to move out of farming to become agribusinesses. This is not going to end current mandis. These reforms will act as a catalyst to enhance their efficiencies, to make them invest in new technology and become more transparent, because there is a next door mandi which is providing all these services. It is just like when you were having a BSNL phone and then you started having a private company giving you a phone. The 7 or 8 years of waiting for a single telephone line ended up becoming people calling you to sell a telephone line to you. But I also agree that there should be one small modification in this law. In current structure, which has been legislated, only the APMC mandis are under taxes, while the private mandis won't be having taxes. I believe there should be a level playing field where both private or APMC controlled mandis should be taxed in a similar manner, which will ensure both will be serving farmers and it's a farmer's choice what to take. Second, committees after committees have been telling that the number of mandis or marketplaces in India is very less. We need mandis at taluka level, at village cluster level. But unfortunately, setting up a marketplace needs a lot of investment. Any government would have limitation of investing. While we need thousands and thousands of mandi, we are having few thousand mandis. By allowing private players, government has ensured that wherever there is sufficient amount of agriculture produce available, a marketplace can get created. By keeping the entry barrier for those who can buy agriculture produce limited to just a PAN card would make it far easier for anybody to transact. Here also I believe that government should put a little bit of regulation so that the black sheep don't enter, because getting a PAN card is pretty easy in India. So I believe a little bit more compliance, whether a registration process, KYC process, net worth assessment, if those type of things can be put in, where farmer can transparently see that if a trader is getting into trade of say ₹1,000,000, is he capable to execute that trade? Second, the payment can be made on spot mandatory rather than where a credit period is given, which creates possibility of fraud being committed against farmer. So with these small fine tuning, I believe we can have far more number of virtual and physical markets in India to cater to our farmer. The third reason for our farmers being poor is that the aggregation mechanism in Indian value chain is pretty opaque, rigid, and inefficient. This leads to, one, the losses of the farmer because of post-harvest loss in transit, transportation. So trader ends up saying that the quality is not that good. When it reaches to the big processor, they believe that quality is not good enough for them to consume it. Now through this bill, the one thing which is happening is that you are consolidating the farmer to aggregate by creating these locate marketplaces. Second, government's thrust for the FPOs will ensure that a group of farmers will be growing one specific variety of a crop, creating huge amount of volumes within the cluster, within the local group of villages. and then they would be able to sell it directly to the producers. Now, all of this is only possible when you ensure there is also physical infrastructure of storage. When you restrict the total amount to be stored, then it is very difficult for a business to invest in both dry storage as well as cold storage. By amending the X for essential supplies, government is ensured that the private players, small, mid and large corporation, can see food or agriculture produce storage as a viable business. There is a lot of hue and cry that we don't need to change this. Already we are having cold storages. You'll be surprised to know that the private cold storages, majority of them, they are actually not profitable. For a very simple reason is that there is a restriction of amount of commodity they can keep. With larger, higher, better scale, they can definitely become more profitable. Any business will not invest until unless they see some profitability. So when somebody says that large corporates will make money, I believe this whole notion itself is too leftist for any vibrant economy like India to do well. We need to understand the agriculture sector today need close to 200 billion US dollars for setting up infrastructure, both physical and digital, enhancing the technology, ensuring digitization, collection of data on ground. Now we all know that any government will find it very difficult to be investing $200 billion, which comes out of approximately 8 to 9% of the national GDP. We need to infuse money in agriculture, which can only happen through private investment. And for private investment is very critical. They are able to see the viability of doing the business. So if large corporations, they start investing in agriculture, I believe that is not a news we should be afraid of. That is a news we should be happy about. Only thing is that, again, government should ensure they are regulated in a way they are investing and ensure accountability of these corporates not to monopolize the trade. And for that, we are having various statutory bodies who can be given further power, whether it is Competition Commission of India or maybe set up an agriculture commission which can look into ensuring that regulation on the ground is flawless. If you see, another big challenge is high risk when farmers are conducting their business. The current reforms ensure that the risk is moved from farmers to the value chain players. I believe that is a very good news, because while we are in initial phases of getting the farmer insurance structure in place to Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, but I still believe that it is not robust enough to mitigate risk of the farmers, especially risk because of the prices. While the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana might be able to take care of risk because of the climate, it is very difficult for it to take care of risk because of the movement of market prices. And the current law ensure that the risk which was on the weakest link on the chain, which is farmer, is gradually moved toward middle of the value chain. I believe when you see all this in a context, in a holistic manner, Modi's farm law are being delivered at right time with right intention. But yes, it needs a little bit of fine tuning before they are rolled out across India with support of each and every farmer of India. I believe we all will have a constructive farm and agriculture regime going forward. Thanks a lot for listening to my AgriView. Next Sunday, we'll come with one more insightful story to tell. Thank you.